Live from London, this is BBC News. The Israeli military says it's retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. America, I gave you my best. The words of a tearful President Biden as he says farewell to Democrats and hails Kamala Harris.
Selecting Kamala was the very first decision I made when I became our nominee. And it was the best decision I made my whole career.
Divers in Italy tried to access the wreckage of a luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily in a freak storm yesterday. Myanmar's civil war, we report on the Rohingya people bombed shortly after this film was taken as they tried to flee. A warm welcome to BBC News. I'm Kasia Madera. We're starting with some breaking news. The Israeli army says that it has retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Gaza's southern district of Khan Yunis in a joint operation with its internal security agency. Now, a statement from the Hostages Families Forum said that the recovery of the bodies crucially provides their families with necessary closure. Daniel, it's a bleak note on which to end, but we are out of time. Daniel Levy from the US Middle East Project, thank you so much. Of course, we'll come back to this story around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News. Just to update you on another line coming from Gaza, the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry is saying that the number of Palestinians killed has gone up to 40,173, with 92,857 people injured. So just a update there on the latest figures. We're, of course, monitoring that for you. But now let's turn to specialist Italian divers who've begun a fresh search for 6 people who are missing after a British luxury yacht sank in a freak storm off Sicily on Monday morning. There were 22 people on board, 15 were rescued, 1 is confirmed as having died. The British technology entrepreneur Mike Lynch and his daughter are among the missing. Authorities have also confirmed to the BBC that the international chairman of Morgan Stanley, Jonathan Bloomer, is among the 6 missing. Simon Jones reports.
Simon Jones, BBC News.
And we do have a live page on our website where you can get the very latest on this story. Our colleagues are updating this, and also we've got Mark Lowen, my colleague, reporting from Sicily. So do stay with us here on BBC News. I'll be back in just a few more minutes with the very latest news. Bye-bye for now. Welcome, you're watching BBC News. I'm Kasia Madera. Our main headlines. The Israeli military says it has retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Well, that comes as the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Egypt to continue his push for a ceasefire. Divers in Italy tried to access the wreckage of a luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily in a freak storm yesterday. Myanmar's civil war, a special report on the Rohingya people bombed shortly after this film was taken as they tried to flee. So welcome back. We're going to return to the Middle East. The ongoing efforts to bring an end to the war in Gaza. Well, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has arrived in Egypt. These are images that came just shortly to us into the BBC. He is continuing to push for a ceasefire deal, and this follows a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, where Mr. Blinken said that Israel had agreed to what he called a bridging proposal put forward by the US, and said it was now up to Hamas. Kirti Dubey from BBC Hindi in Kolkata, thank you so much for bringing us up to date. Lots more, of course, on our website around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News. The BBC has uncovered testimony from what may be one of the worst incidents of mass killings in Myanmar's civil war. On August the 5th, eyewitnesses say that hundreds of civilians from the Rohingya Muslim community were bombed as they tried to flee. Megan, absolutely gorgeous. What a joyous way to start a Tuesday morning. Please do thank your guests, Ashwini and Aparna. That was absolutely beautiful. Megan Owen there at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. You are watching BBC News. Now, just to bring you some breaking news regarding some figures from Scotland for you. This is from the National Records of Scotland that says that the number of people who died from drug misuse has increased last year to 1,172, and that is up an increase of 121 people who have died from drug misuse on the previous 12 months. So that figure hitting a record high actually in 2020 of 1,339 in 2020. So a slight drop, but it is an increase on the previous 12 months. So just bring you an update on the number of people who've died of drugs misuse in Scotland. Lorna Golden with that report. Dramatic pictures. Important to say that nobody was hurt. Right, let's get some weather, shall we? Here's some weather. Live from London, this is BBC News. King Charles is to visit Southport later in the wake of the knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 children. The Israeli military says it has retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. America, I gave my best to you. The words of a tearful President Biden as he says farewell to Democrats and hails Kamala Harris. Divers in Italy tried to access the wreckage of a luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily in a freak storm yesterday. And a rocket engine explodes during a test launch at the UK's new Spaceport in Shetland. Hello, a warm welcome to BBC News. I'm Kasia Madera and we start this hour with breaking news. King Charles is to visit Southport later today in the wake of the knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 children. Elsie Stankham, Bebe King and Alice da Silva Aguiar were stabbed to death at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. Well, the King will meet privately with people who were affected, as well as members of the town's community and also the emergency services. Well, we can cross over live to speak to my colleague Charlotte Gallagher, who joins us live from Southport. And Charlotte, this will be particularly poignant for His Majesty the King. So Mark Lowen there in Sicily, but we're going to take you to Egypt, where the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is meeting with the Egyptian leader in order to push forward with what he hopes is a bridging proposal for a ceasefire deal in Gaza. So Mr. Blinken will be, of course, we lose the pictures, but we just wanted to make you aware that we are monitoring what is happening in Egypt, because this will be critical, and what Mr. Blinken has earlier warned as being maybe the last opportunity to secure a ceasefire agreement between Gaza and Israel. We are, of course, monitoring that, also monitoring the situation in Sicily as well. We've got a live page there which you can access via that QR code. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. The BBC has uncovered testimony from what may be one of the worst incidents of mass killings in Myanmar's civil war. On August the 5th, eyewitnesses say that hundreds of civilians from the Rohingya Muslim community were bombed as they tried to flee. It is the latest deadly violence against them. In 2017, hundreds were killed in what was described by the UN as ethnic cleansing by the country's military. OK, Hamish de Bretton-Gordon, former British Army officer, NATO commander, really good to get your insight. Thank you for your perspective. Of course, we are monitoring the situation in Ukraine and that Kursk operation on our website as well. But just now, time to tell you that a rocket engine exploded during a test at Britain's new Spaceport in Shetland off the north coast of Scotland. Just have a look at some of these images, where scientists had hoped this would be the first full engine test of a vertical rocket on European soil. It wasn't the case. Luckily, nobody was injured in this. More on our website. Welcome, you're watching BBC News. I'm Kasia Madera. Our main headlines. King Charles is to visit Southport later in the wake of the knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 children. The Israeli Defence Forces say that they've retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. One of them was a dual British-Israeli national. Well, this comes as the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, arrives in Egypt to continue his push for a ceasefire. Divers in Italy try to access the wreckage of a luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily in a freak storm yesterday. And America, I gave my best to you. The words of a tearful President Biden as his Vice President Kamala Harris prepares to be formally confirmed as the Democratic presidential candidate. Hello, welcome. We're going to return to our main story, the King's visit to Southport. He is making the trip in the wake of the knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 children. Elsie Stankham, baby King, and Alice da Silva Aguirre were stabbed to death at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class last month. Well, we can speak to the BBC's former royal correspondent, Jenny Bond, who joins us live now. And Jenny, this is going to be, from our understanding, a very private meeting for His Majesty the King and those directly affected. Incredibly poignant moment. One of 52,000 performances. Our thanks to Meghan and her wonderful guests. Now let's have a look at what the weather's doing. Here's Carol Kirkwood. Live from London, this is BBC News. Specialist Italian divers are beginning a fresh search for 6 people missing after a British luxury yacht sank in a freak storm off Sicily. Well, this is the scene live now in Sicily. We'll bring you the very latest. The Israeli Defence Forces say that they have retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. One of them was a dual British-Israeli national. Well, that comes as the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, arrives in Egypt to continue his push for a ceasefire.
I'm Charlotte Gallagher and I'm in Southport, where the King is going to meet with the families and survivors of the deadly knife attack in July.
And a rocket engine explodes during a test launch at the UK's new Spaceport in Shetland. Hello, welcome to BBC News. I'm Kasia Madera. We start in Italy, where specialist divers have begun a fresh search for 6 people missing after a British luxury yacht sank in a freak storm off Sicily on Monday morning. Morgan Stanley International Bank Chairman Jonathan Bloomer, together with his wife Judy and the lawyer Chris Morvillo, are among those missing. The British tech tycoon Mike Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter Hannah are also missing. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. So welcome back to BBC News. We're going to return to the situation in Gaza and that Israeli airstrike on a school compound in Gaza City, in which Gaza authorities there, Hamas-run Gaza authorities are saying at least 10 Palestinians were killed. Israeli military saying that the school was, they targeted it because Hamas operatives had embedded themselves within the school. Hamas denying that. Let's cross over live to Jerusalem because my colleague John Donison joins us as promised. And John, not a very clear picture, as is often the case in this situation. What do we know? So, of course, as we continue to monitor the live image of that search operation underway, we have a live page as well, and we've got our very own Mark Lowen, who is in Sicily, who is updating that live page as more concern is launched following the sinking of that yacht in what's described as a freak weather incident. The British tech tycoon Mike Lynch, his 18-year-old daughter Hannah, also missing, and we heard from our colleague Nikki Schiller, who was outlining some of the other people who are still feared missing. But that search is continuing under difficult circumstances. So, of course, we continue to monitor that here on BBC News. Do stay with us.
British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch and his daughter Hannah are among 6 people missing after a yachting tragedy in Sicily, alongside Morgan Stanley's Jonathan Bloomer. We'll hear about the significance of them in the business world. It's Japan's biggest ever foreign takeover bid, and shares in the 7-Eleven owner have soared. Its president has been speaking to the BBC. And a rocket engine explodes during a test launch at the UK's new Spaceport in Shetland. We'll talk to the Spaceport's CEO live. A warm welcome to Business Today. I'm Mark Lobel. It's being reported that Morgan Stanley International Bank Chairman Jonathan Bloomer, his wife Judy and Clifford Chance lawyer Chris Morvillo are among 6 people missing after a luxury yacht sank off the coast of the Italian island of Sicily in the early hours of Monday morning. Morgan Stanley said in a statement they are deeply shocked and saddened by the news, calling it a terrible situation. Because we do want to know when it happens. Thanks for joining us here on Business Today. Thank you for joining us. You're up to date.
Hello from the BBC Sports Centre, I'm Hugh Ferris. He is still going at 37 years old, and according to one television pundit, he's Leicester's greatest ever player. Jamie Vardy had been ruled out of his team's opening match of the new Premier League season, but declared himself fit, started and scored the goal that gave promoted Leicester a 1-1 draw against Tottenham. And we'll be hearing from Ollie Pope, the stand-in England captain himself, in the coming hours on BBC News. Head to the BBC Sport website for more on all those stories, including the latest transfer rumours. There will be plenty in the coming days. That's it. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye for now.
This is BBC News. It is August, and in Scotland's capital city, that means only one thing. It is, of course, time for the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. For 3.5 weeks, artists from 58 countries are putting on more than 52,000 performances, ranging from comedy to cabaret, music to magic. This week is indeed the final week, and Megan Owen is there for us. Megan, the final week, what have you got in store for us now? Megan, thank you so much. Please thank Party Girl as well. We really enjoyed that. That was fantastic. Thank you, Megan Owen there, and her guests from Edinburgh. Sunny there. What is it doing in the rest of the UK? Let's get all the weather. Here's Carol Kirkwood.
Hello again. As we go through the rest of this week, the weather does remain